Hi, I'm Akilora.
Namrohan.
Welcome to The Long Take. This week we're discussing the new Hrithik Roshan and Deepika Padukone movie, Fighter, and it's now on Netflix. This is supposed to be like India's attempt at Top Gun, and depending on how you view the original Top Gun, it's pretty much around that one or basically both. Yeah, where do you stand on this one?
Yeah, there are like Top Gun elements in it, although they have kind of taken away an internal adversary and replaced it with like a external kind of villainous force. But honestly, I mean I wasn't as annoyed by this movie as I was anticipating, but then that is the reason for that is maybe because we've seen so much trash recently that this one feels like passable, at least on some levels.
I mean, I'm not sure if I say possible, but yeah, I guess the things you're alluding to, the historical and the political, that stuff that we're expecting after, like, I mean, you watched the trailer, you just described it to me, so I have second-hand knowledge of the trailer. You said you expected that to be like done in like a much more like jingoistic nonsense.
Actually, yeah.
And that stuff, I guess, is not as annoying. It's not as omnipresent as expected to be. But the stuff is just like, the basic stuff, storytelling, or like the basic stuff like characters and like ensuring like from the marketing of it, I thought this was a Hrithik Roshan and a Deepika Padukone movie, as I described at the opening of this episode. But this is a Hrithik Roshan movie.
Yeah.
Padukone is basically like an accessory.
I don't think any movie with Hrithik Roshan in it can be anything other than a Hrithik Roshan movie because...
But like that's surprising to me because like, because you go into this with like Siddharth Anand, so like obviously you're thinking of like, Pathaan. And despite that being a Shah Rukh Khan vehicle, I felt like Deepika Padukone was a lot in it. And she felt like a co-lead there. And sure, she feels like she only exists when Roshan's character needs her.
Yeah. I mean, basically everybody around Hrithik Roshan in this movie exists only to kind of ogle at him and be like, how, like, this is the coolest person to have ever, like, walked.
And even the story, right? Like, when he's, like, dispatched off to Hyderabad, which, like, is one of the many, like, momentum-killing beats that this stupid movie does, the story just stops. Like, nothing happens in Jammu until he's back.
I didn't mind all that as much, actually.
Right.
Because they've already set up the internal kind of animosity that Anil Kapoor's character has with Patty, right? So you in a way are already sensing that it's going to kind of heat up to a point where it explodes, and once it explodes, then there's nothing left to happen other than him being kind of, his wings being clipped. Which I suppose in a movie like this it has to happen before he can kind of come back and save the day. So when he's sent away to like Hyderabad and he's sent away from his friends and all, the filmmaking is still shoddy. Like they have that lip sync song moment on the runway where that nonsense happens. But then as a story beat,
the songs and itself.
No, but as a story beat, I was like, fine. I guess this is it, right? I'm not expecting you to kind of deviate from the flight path or whatever,
Right, but like for me, like it happened at such an odd stage because like I feel like every time this movie builds up like the narrative, like oh like yeah, things are coming to a head, and then it's like either it's like oh wait song, or either it's like oh wait no wait it's a funeral now, oh wait or like we're sending Hrithik Roshan away for 40 days, and I'm like at this juncture like you want to have like two of your characters like captured and sitting in POK or wherever they are, and you have decided that the correct decision is to wait 40 days. Dispatch the hero to a corner and somehow this is gonna make sense, and I'm just like none of this like is working for me.
I understand what you're saying, but for some reason I was just like, abhi Hrithik ki zarurat nahi hai na, because now they're going to arrange for the kind of prisoners of war to kind of be returned via like diplomatic channels. So like it's all going to be like backroom dealing anyway. We don't need to see it, but Hrithik Roshan isn't going to be kind of called into action until the very end, which is fine. It just went on slightly longer than it needed to, but then what I found more annoying was just, like you mentioned, the song that happens when they first, Hrithik Roshan and Deepika Padukone first kind of hit it off or whatever. And that kind of robs, like there are a billion better ways to kind of even imply chemistry than just cut away to a song that has nothing to do with anything, It's not even it's like in some foreign ass location where they just sing in some...
Yeah, all the songs I feel like, I don't know, from foreign location.
Yeah.
Just been shot separately by some other unit.
I mean, they could have just, if you had to have them sing and dance, just have them sing and dance in like some Air Force के आसपास का पहाड़. No, there were so many pahads over there also.
Which I think there is like one song for that, if I'm not mistaken.
But they had to go to
There's
some
like
like
too many extra songs in this movie.
no, they had to go to like some Greece or something. कहीं.
Yeah, whatever. Somewhere that is patched. Like, and I feel like honestly, Padukone has more to do in the songs than in the actual movie.
Yeah, there's nothing much to do. Like they could have maybe had her be kidnapped or something, you know. But instead,
But then we would blame the movie for like damsel in distress trope.
never she can rescue herself and be like, why you?
Which, like, by the way, like she's not involved in the action at all. If you notice, like she's in a movie called Fighter, and she's not on the Fighter.
She's kind
always,
of
like
she's
safely in a helicopter.
She's doing the Gunjan Saxena thing, right? Which I don't know if that is how they do things in the Air Force. I have no idea if the women are just, you know.
I mean, I'm not willing to apply like realism to this movie, like how the real Air Force is, because of the
No, but for
the
instance,
completely like zero understanding of the otherwise the Air Force everywhere else.
no, but like for instance, there could be some like stat that we can probably access that helicopter pilots ka sex ratio is like 70% women. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm saying I'm actually going to go further. I'm saying like sure, the real world scenario is I think in women in the Air Force are not allowed to be in like combat situations. They're only like allowed to be in support situations. But I'm not willing to give the movie that because it destroys everything else about the Air Force everywhere. Like people have started like World War III at least 4 times in this movie.
By just
like literally people you cannot send after you captured someone, you cannot send his body in pieces. That is an international incident after which this movie is done.
Yeah, you can't send his body in pieces. You can't like which they do like multiple times, right? People like Pakistani people come over Indian airspace and Indian Air Force goes over Pakistani airspace.
Which I think was violated. The historical things that it's referencing, usme ye hua tha. But yeah, they take that. They always take like something rooted in like recent history and then they push it beyond belief.
But again, like I don't really mind when that happens because like who cares? You know, it's a movie, who cares? And when like Hrithik does it, they make it out to seem as if he's done some gross violation, which is fine. You know, it's not like it happens and they just overlook it. Like Anil Kapoor is actually outraged. Like, how could you do that? You know, it's like against the rules or whatever.
He's like always shouting in this movie.
Oh my god, he's shouting so much, and then later to end में तो he वो पीछे बैठ जाता है and it's like louder. I'm like, bro, like it's distracting now. वो patty को.
And he's not offering anything like as a co-pilot, you're supposed to give him like information, right? He's not offering anything like substantial. He's just like complaining. He's whining from the backseat, and I'm like, backseat driver, launch him. Like literally just like launch him off at this point.
He's so distracting. Piche, I was like, dude, Hrithik, matlab, like he has like important things to do. Save the
exactly. Yeah, he has like literally like life and death. Blink in a you miss it. Like split-second decisions to make. And this guy is like, "Tu kuch kar kyun nahi raha hai? Piche dekho, idhar dekho, ye dekho." Like, chup ho ja.
Yeah, he's doing like radar ka job. No, he's basically like missile aa raha hai.
But that is another understanding that the movie does not display. It's like this movie does not know how radar works. People can switch off their radar. That I loved. I was like, wow, you went disappear off radar because you decided to disappear off radar. Wow, that's a decision to make.
Yeah. And then there's that one stupid bit where they kind of do that 0 Dark 30 thing, right? Where like some the guy from Family Man shows up in a comedy scene and then pretends to be a Russian pilot or whatever. And then there's
my god, that was probably the bottom, like the nadir of the movie's humor attempts. Because the longer it went on, it goes on for a minute, I think. The longer it goes on, it's just like they're doing like multiple things. Now they try to put it like, oh look, Pakistanis are stupid. We can fool them so easily. They're doing that. Like, all sort of nothing was working. And I'm just like, this movie is like, I was watching this with dad and I spoke to him. I was like, this is now Khichdi 2.
No, because then it basically turns into like the aeroplane version of like people hiding एक के ऊपर एक in a trench coat, right? Because वो plane के ऊपर plane छुपा हुआ था and nobody saw. It was so stupid. And then
so stupid.
Like no, if that would happen in real life, they would like scramble jets and be like, "Excuse me, who are you?" And in 2 seconds, you would spot them. Like they'll be like, "Oh,
it's not even like you are on like like actual Pakistan. You're on POK, which is an even more sensitive area."
Yeah, so there's like real like stupid, like it's not like the movie was lacking humor or anything. Like everyone's like, oh my god, so serious this movie is, we need like jokes now. It's always like a stupid movie, like it's like Marvel or something.
Like the only purpose, like those characters, Akshay Oberoi and Karan Singh Grover's the characters like their whole purpose is to make jokes and like praise Patty.
Yeah, I mean, like for like the first 40 minutes, those like I would argue Karan Singh Grover is the comic relief. Like nothing he says is
Yeah,
like
he is a comic relief. He's like, वैसे ही अच्छा नहीं होगा तो तू गा दे, वैसे ही नहीं होगा तो he's like, he's always goading him to showing him his like characteristics.
yeah. So for the movie to kind of suddenly be like, oh no, we need like real like jokes, like a jokey scene. And at that stage where they're planning like a serious like mission, it felt like ye kya stupidity hai. Otherwise, I thought like it's like regular. Like if this had like Shah Rukh Khan in it, I don't know if our opinion would change. But I honestly don't think that this is any worse or better than Pathaan. Honestly, like it's just like
No, I think this is definitely worse than Pathaan. Like I feel like Pathaan was a lot of times in on the joke and it did not take itself seriously. Like this thinks it's being cool when it's being actually being dumb.
it's being cool, but it's not being serious. Like it's not like under some
self-serious, but it's being like, oh, this thing was actually like we did it so well, and I'm like, no, you did it stupidly, like, and I'm like not buying it. And Pathaan like is pushing like logic and physics or whatever, but you can, it's still a fun ride for the most of the time, which just basically tells you that like the writers of Pathaan are like, for me, are like way better than the writers of this movie.
This is written by Hussain Dalal, everybody's favorite person.
Is it? Because that's what's the name I came across. Or is it like a ghost writing thing?
No, the dialogues are written by Hussain.
Dialogues out.
वो यहाँ पे तो अलग करते हैं ना, like screenplay is considered like a separate entity.
Yeah, I was talking about not just dialogue, but I was talking about like beat by beat. Like it's that's why I keep going back to, right? This movie does not understand what story momentum.
I don't know, man. Like honestly, I genuinely think that it's a case of like very low expectations, which I had, but
somehow it flew under them.
Which for me it was the opposite, because the only reason I did not go to watch this in the theater, because I remember we were considering doing it back then also, is that I was like, no bro, like iska trailer, if
I won't give money to this now.
Yeah, because they fully tried to sell this as some kind of Uri the Surgical Strike, okay?
Which like it even makes a joke at.
But then my bigger issue with this movie is that, so you, presuming that you made the movie and now you're sitting down to kind of figure out how to market it, right? You have two options. You can either lean into whatever goodwill that you established after Pathaan, and which everybody was said was slightly progressive, you know, it wasn't like, surprisingly they had like smart things.
Which is again the writers benefit.
Whatever.
Like the director just did something.
No, but very easily they could have been like Siddharth Anand ki picture, hai na? My point is that they had the choice, and they chose to tell everybody that, here, listen, you know that Uri kind of did really well, so here's another movie like that. It's like going to be anti-Pakistan or whatever. But when I'm watching the movie, the movie's kind of going out of its way to separate Pakistan from like the villain. That, you know, like we don't have a problem with like the country, but we have a problem with the terrorists that kind of live in the country. And then at the end also, Patty kind of tells him कि, you know, you say that you're Pakistani, but कल को तो किसी और देश का हो जाएगा. You don't really have any affiliation. And then obviously do that good Muslim trope and all that nonsense also. But that being said, it's not Tiger 3, which is on the other end of the spectrum when it comes to like itna mehenga Bollywood movies. But it's definitely not as problematic as it wanted itself to actually seem.
I mean, yeah, if you really drill down to it, like if you start discussing beat by beat the historical distortions, I'm sure like we'll come to the decision that it is actually quite problematic. But there are still aspects.
But historical distortion, what historical distortion? Like I don't understand like what the historical distortion that I'm supposed to be outraged by.
That's only because like then you have to like, I guess, have a working knowledge of like the things that are operating based on, right? Because this movie is really selling the reframing that was done by our ruling party, right? Around the just supposed reply that India did to the response of like the incident that it holds is the terrorist incident on the CRPF. Like that's the one which it blows up, obviously for fictional purposes. It doubles the body count. But everything from there on of India's supposed reply, like what we did, like bombing this terrorist camp, when in reality, like every unbiased report says that we basically bombed trees and nothing else. The supposed retaliation then from Pakistan, and then the stuff that happened with the two countries in aerial combat. Then the opposite, there was actually a guy who was kidnapped from India who the Pakistan took, who was returned in 4 days, not like 40 days and then dead. So all those distortions, like if when they start mounting upon each other, you can tell that this is reframing is being done not just to make the movie like fictional and like more exciting. It's being done to in a way suit the narrative that most people want to go along with these days.
Acha, so my takeaway from this is, unlike Uri, which also kind of takes off from a real life kind of attack, as does this. The difference that I noticed was that in Uri, like the government is an active kind of participant in the plot. Like Paresh Rawal is playing like Doval or something, and you
frequently because my dad pointed out, I had no idea.
वो एक scene में आता है बंदा whatever, but उसमें the point being that उसमें they were actively like there's a separate plot line involving just the government.
Right.
Oh, this is what we have to do. This is how we must retaliate against the Pakistanis. You know, घर में घुस के मारेंगे this that. So now in my head that is the bad way to do it, right? Because not only are you connecting it with a real life incident, you are saying that the actual government, which is still in power, made certain decisions based on that real life incident, and those things you are embellishing in the movie. Here, the government is not involved, right? So what they do is they actually reframe it to the perspective of soldier log.
Yeah.
And not that I'm saying कि बहुत ही कमाल like हमारा defense strategy or whatever is, but in my head, I'm viewing this as Patty is going to save his buddies, right? Which is the basic thing that most war movies do in order to be
like every, you can argue on some level, every Hollywood like movie about like
every war movie, it is in the best interest of the war movie to separate itself from the politics, because the politics are always going to be off-putting, right? Because then you're going to be thinking sending so many.
Yeah, but what I'm saying here is that especially they're doing a quiet version of like a revised revisionist history, a quiet version of nationalism.
They're doing nationalism for sure, but they're doing it in a way where they're sitting on the fence also. Now that to me is more annoying than actually going and being like jhoot bolna.
Because they're trying to appease both sides.
They're trying to appease both sides by making someone like me be like, oh, it's not that problematic, you know. But you're also selling nationalism to people who are prone to kind of buy into that kind of nonsense, right? Someone who's prone to
by pitching it on a grand scale, you're basically saying like, that's what happens, right? Like so many times people don't like, after watching, let's say, The Crown, most people haven't read through the Wikipedia articles of those 18, 20 personalities. So now for a lot of people, that will cement itself as reality, right? If they're not.
But वो लोग तो बेवकूफ है ना. Now I'm not going to watch Fighter and be like, oh my god, this is historical fact. Like that'll be really stupid. I'm watching Fighter and being like, oh, Patty's going to save his buddies. Obviously, I'm not like, why would I watch Fighter? It's Fighter. It's not even like
but borderline serious. Attaching itself to a real life incident, right?
Yeah. There's a reason it's attaching itself to a real life incident.
There's a reason it's not like in like just like it could just be like makeup's new stuff, right? Like 2028 में ये हो रहा है.
Makeup new stuff, but I mean, इतना level तक escalations तो हुए नहीं है ना. Like the level of escalation that you see in the movie is like full out warfare. Like
I would say after like anything after that happens after the soldiers are kidnapped is entirely fiction. But until that point, they basically used non-fiction as the basis and then created fiction out of it.
Yeah, I suppose.
Which is where it gets egregious for me, is because you want to. There's a very like deep interest in attaching yourself to reality, because that's what you're selling, right? In a way, they're selling the idea of like India is this amazing nation which like does not sit and take back attacks. We reply to attacks these days.
They are doing that, yes. And I don't know if it is any. I mean, I don't know if it would be any different if in real life. Like I don't know. Like I think हमारा आजकल का mentality is also very militaristic and very angry and very kind of vengeful. So I don't know if Fighter kind of playing into that is actively like harmful or just like mildly annoying. Like I can't make the distinction in my head.
Yeah, I mean after a point, like these things, as I said, right, the historical distortion in a way like took a backseat for me is because all the other elements, you know, the stuff we discussed, the storytelling beats, the songs and like the characters not working, Deepika being treated as an accessory, like those stuff annoy you more because those are happening on a more regular basis, right? Like they're happening every second of the movie. You're like, yeah, great, it's just Hrithik's movie. No one else matters.
Like I am more annoyed by the characters being very thinly written, right? Yeah. Like you don't get a sense of anybody beyond just the basic two-line thing that we need to know in a certain situation. Like all we know about Deepika Padukone is like uske parents were like not in favor of her joining the Air Force.
Yeah, generally
That's
spoken about that
about it.
ridiculous scene that happens in Hyderabad.
Ashutosh Rana wala.
Yeah, like what is that?
That's crazy, right? Because
Yeah.
he just walks into an office and happens to be like,
They couldn't figure out an organic way to actually get, Minnie's parents meet Patty. So they were like, what is
forget
the
that.
only situation where we can make this happen?
We couldn't figure out an organic way to make the coincidence seem more believable.
Yeah.
So it's literally like, आपका नाम, whatever her name is, क्या नाम है उसका पूरा?
Rathod. So then, because the last name match, can you imagine? Like this must be like only 5 Rathods in the entire country.
Yeah, he's like, आप भी राठौर हो? अरे, just give her some like crazy ass name, no, that we never heard before.
Yeah.
Simple.
Like this Patty has only met one Rathod his entire life before. And it's not like this, forget, like even if I can excuse this out of the way, it's not like the scene is great itself, right? The writing of that scene itself is like so short. You feel like, why is the, for multiple times I was like, why, it's almost feel like the male character is speaking for it. It feels like a male saver scene only, like, because Minnie does not know how to confront or like talk to her parents. So the male hero is now doing it on her behalf and scolding the parents.
Yeah. It's like out of a, it's like very Bollywood, right? It's like, like this, you could replace this in like a Shah Rukh Khan Kajol movie and I would not like, it's one of those things, right?
And then it annoys you because, even further, because just when they build into the final mission, the parents show up. And I'm like, great. Can we stop killing story momentum again at this juncture?
What else? Who else is annoying in this movie?
We spoke about Karan Singh Grover.
Anil Kapoor is like John Hammond, like Maverick, right? Uska ek kaam hai bas.
Yeah, except John Hammond is not like shouting in your ear with like loud pitch one.
And like actively participating in the final mission where he can like...
Yeah, John Hammond just excuses himself. He's like, I'm sitting in the ship, you go. But that's the thing, like, that's another thing I actually wanted to talk about is that this movie like wants to be Top Gun, but it feels like it only learns from Top Gun, even though it could learn from Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah. There is no... there are a couple of like flying sequences where you can sense that they're cutting corners, but that's mainly because they don't have the money.
Yeah. We haven't even touched upon CGI because I'm like, that I don't even expect at this point from Bollywood.
No, but like once again, you know where I'm coming from. I've seen Bhuj and I've seen Tejas.
Yeah, I've seen Shurveer.
What the hell is that?
Exactly. It is Hotstar take on Top Gun.
Okay, so like I'm sure combined, like all three projects, iska better hai. So I'm like, chalo, theek hai.
Exactly. Like, so that's the thing. Now, like with Bollywood, like our baselines are so low.
So low, yeah.
Yeah. Like the first scene itself, you can just tell everything is CGI because he flies like a supersonic jet at like half a foot away from like the airstrip, and I'm just like, yep, that's fake.
No, 1 second. You just mentioned this thing. One thing I noticed is very early on in the movie is Top Gun Maverick, what they did with the opening scene is like there was this 10-minute thing where they built up to Tom Cruise's arrival.
Yeah. The movie doesn't even start. It's just like a showcase of, look at this, US Navy.
And in Fighter, the first time that they build up to, let's go for this mission, they don't even show the takeoff.
No.
We just cut to Seedha, they're all in the sky.
Yeah. Which is basically they're all in some green screen backdrop.
I'm like, bro, at least show us the engines being switched on.
Yeah.
No, if you're a fighter pilot movie, we need to see the engines being switched on, the throttle going, like everything lighting up. We need to see the takeoff. None of that they show all in the sky.
Flick some switches, like उसने refuel करा, fuel का cable निकाल के छोड़ा, taxi करा, कुछ तो दिखा दो, like you are calling it a combat movie.
We just cut directly to everybody's in the sky and like Anil Kapoor's yelling. So that's an early indication of, so my was paise nahi the. Or maybe we're going to have more of this, right? And which is what happens, which is like you see that, like objective ye hai, 4 log involved hain. I've understood that much. But
now you point out this taxing and thing, and then they don't show you off takeoff. Now I'm thinking of that scene, like where for the final scene where like Hrithik escapes the control room and gets into a plane. Before he takes off, there's a full exchange between Kapoor, the senior, and Patty, right?
Yeah.
And he's just sitting in the plane with the cockpit open.
Waiting.
Because they're taxing case. You can show that him like taxing and take off and like he's escaping now. Because that would be more realistic because he's literally getting away. He's just sitting with the cockpit open. At any point, someone can come and be like, "Isko baad nikalo."
No, he's already somehow run away from the whatever headquarters room thing.
Yeah.
Mission control. He's found his way onto the tarmac. He's climbed on into a plane, and from there he's calling and saying, "Ke bhaiya main ja raha hu."
But he's not taxing. He's just sitting. The entire
He's just sitting.
scene, he's stationary.
So you don't understand why is he still stationary? Why is he?
Yeah, it's not like an emergency because he's trying to like. You have to imagine he has to fly from like wherever they are near Jammu into POK, which is not like 2 minutes away. It's not your neighbor's house. It's POK. You have to go there to find where these people are. You have to find their base and then like, rescue your people. But no, he's just sitting on the run.
मतलब 10-15 minute तो लगेंगे. But the whole purpose of that scene is to wait for Anil Kapoor, right? It's meant to be this big like, oh, like this is what like cheer.
He's gonna convince. This is the moment like finally Kapoor comes on his side.
Yeah.
Let him fly. Let the sun go.
There was a lot of these moments where you can sense that, oh, acha, so you thought that this was going to be the moment where everybody would erupt, right? Where he like literally parachutes in. Final scene where
that was insane. Like how they had like two planes like collide over some, I don't know where, like random mountains in the background.
Oh yeah, he uses his plane as a missile.
It's the community land where like the villain is. And I'm like, wow, so they were just like below, above them?
Yeah, he like fully parachutes in, and then like it's supposed to be like Hawai Jahaz movie, but then it turns into like Dishum, like Punch Up movie.
Yeah. And the entire time, Deepika's just sitting in the helicopter waiting.
Yeah. All this stuff, yeah. So it's
and this is the stuff that annoys you more, right?
I'm more.
They can't actually make a movie about fighter jets.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, so you can't make, say, Border again, right? Border is outdated.
Yeah.
And you don't have the money, or chalo, let's assume that if you had the money, you could make it, but you don't have the money also. So I don't know where that leaves you. Do you even attempt it and get like just produce something as, like this, or do you just like, I don't know.
Yeah, but the thing is, forget about like getting the money. My problem is that these people are able to convince that they have like a solid script, right? It's like eventually the blame has to go to the producers, right? The people who are greenlighting this and looking at this on this page and like, yeah, you have enough here. Go on.
You have enough, huh? Enough is the keyword, right? Because it's like, oh, you don't have like the perfect script or anything. We don't have like state-of-the-art VFX that we can kind of use to smoothen over the nonsense in the script. But you have enough. You have Hrithik. So jao. Have fun.
I guess that's written in the script already. It doesn't say Patty. It says Hrithik Roshan walks in.
Yeah.
That's how you set the script.
No, but nobody has ever kind of photographed any movie star like this. Siddharth Anand photographs Hrithik Roshan. Like in War also and in this also. Like, he steps into the thing, he cuts away to like 15 people and they're all in awe of this dude.
Which is why like, they're trying to like make like Minnie as this character, right? Who's like not bought into this Patty's phenomenon thing.
But she can't help herself.
Exactly.
So cool. Like, it was those seconds where she's like, who is this man?
And then that time she's just gripped. She's like, kaun hai kaun? Itna arrogance kaise dikha raha hai? Kisi ka beta.
Out there.
And then 20 minutes later, she's also like dancing with him in a song. I'm like, okay, you're done.
Yeah. So this movie is like, it's partially like a Top Gun wannabe, but like 50% of it is like a 90s like romantic movie in Bollywood where all the beats are like exactly the same. It's like,
that's like get undone, right? They feel like they want to ape something, but they don't realize they're still like bound by an industry that demands like what you said and songs and other like nonsensical stuff. And by the time they end up with a final product, they're so far away from what they started aping, then they look like a joke. Like, why do you try to ape Top Gun?
Yeah. Why do you try to ape Top Gun? Why do you want to like appease like right-wingers? Do you want to be Jab We Met? Like, sab kar do. Sab kar do.
Yeah, through the kitchen sink.
Oh.
Another one down the drain.
Yeah.
Right. That's all for this episode of The Long Take. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Threads at The Long Take Pod. You can write to us at thelongtakepod@gmail.com, or please leave us a rating and a review wherever this episode, and we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.